Hey there, welcome to PrimePod, the show where we sit down with industry experts, powerhouse builders, and people shaping the future of the construction industry. Today, we're going to go behind the scenes to uncover the wins, the losses, and the exact playbooks that are driving growth in today's market. Whether you're swinging hammers, running crews, or scaling a multi-million-dollar operation, this is where you get the insights to work smarter, grow faster, and stay ahead. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Charlie, who is the VP of Business Development at Armada Design and Build. He has been in the industry since '92 and has helped to grow Armada Design and Build from a one-person operation to a multi-million-dollar organization that not only provides construction services, but has also started to sell the parts people need to build beautiful homes. Today, we get to dig in with him on how he did it, what's working now, and where he sees the industry going next. But before I have Charlie introduce himself, I want to give a quick plug to Prime AI Partners. Prime AI Partners helps construction businesses optimize their operations, drive revenue growth by leveraging AI-powered solutions, and provide custom solutions designed to streamline lead generation, automate processes, and improve efficiency, really allowing companies to scale faster and maximize profits. So, Charlie, quick introduction.
Hi, thanks for having me, Breanna. You said a lot that kind of covers it. Yeah, I have been in and around residential construction since I was 7 years old. I grew up in it with my grandpa, learned how to frame at a very early age, and have done literally everything that one can do on a house myself, from pulling wire to pouring foundations, laying brick, roofing, siding. Everybody's painted, so that's nothing unusual. So I've been in and around it literally forever. It's really what I love and what I know. And then take that and combine that with sort of professional business management aspect of it, more so than just the trade component. And then how do we take a business to the next level? So I've been involved in a couple of serious growth trajectories for a couple of different companies in my career, and this is probably the last one for me. Helping Alex take the Armada to another level, and we've gone a long way in the last 4 years, and got a lot more to do. So it's been a fun challenge and pretty rewarding and successful at this point, and just interested to see what the next 5 to 8 years look like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, how about you start back kind of in that first year that you started with Armada and tell
Mm-hmm.
me how you got started and how you've grown it from what it was then to where it is now.
Well, I've known the owner, Alex. We both arrived in Seattle the same time in four, and then I met him in 2006 or seven, and he was a tile installer at the time. And so I was working for a different general, and we hired him as a tile installer, and then he changed and grew his company. We got along really well. And then he went to expanded to full interiors and was doing everything kind of from the drywall in. And then the general that I was working for at the time was kind of, letting me run it. And so then I hired him as the first person company that hired him to do all of that, which he really liked. And then another few years go by, and he wants to set up as a full service design build organization. And so even though we were technically competitors, we got along. And so I helped him lay down the foundation of what that should look like and how he should set it up, not only as design build, working fixed cost, but also in the dealer model, where he was going to be the dealer for as many products as he could to buy them, climb up the food chain as far as possible. And so he developed some cabinet dealer relationships, some flooring and tile relationships, those kind of things. And we put that in place. And then he chugged along for 7 or 8 years, just kind of, bumping along, a couple of people here and there, and had some pretty good growth. Got to 5 or 6 million, but really it was doing it a lot himself. And then we had talked a couple of times about me joining him. And then in 2020, out of late 2020, coming out of sort of the wind down of COVID, he reached out and it worked out. And so I came over in March of 2021 and joined him then. And he was in a couple little spaces in this little office mall type of thing with a tiny little showroom. So then within a year and a half, we moved into a 10,000 square foot office and showroom, built it out completely from nothing. It was totally raw when we moved in. Have turned over the staff completely. There are only 3 or 4 people that are still here. Brought in professional management in the design department, HR and accounting, production manager, COO, And Alex is really working as the CEO at this point. We've got a full marketing department now, and gone from 5 or 6 million to, we're looking at sneaking up on 20 million this year.
Wow.
And we've got 6 project consultants, as we refer to them, sort of salespeople. We have the 6 project managers that run jobs. We have a design department of 5 people. And then 2 years ago, after we really kind of got our feet under us, we opened and created Armada Design Center versus Armada Design and Build. And Armada Design Center is now just selling materials out of the showroom. We'll sell to homeowners individually, but the biggest market there for sure are other small builders. They can come in, they can buy cabinets, countertops, all that. We're the kitchen dealer for them, we're the flooring dealer. We have a team that work with those clients, whether they're builders or individuals, and then sort of whatever level of service that they need. That builder can send in their client, the Armada Design Center salesperson, designer will work with them to pick out and specify it, or if they've got everything done and they just need a quote, here's your cabinet quote, there you go. One place for one resource. And so that's going really well. I mean, that's a whole nother segment that we're doing now that we've gotten into, sort of the parts department, if you will, as opposed to doing the full repair, if you kind of analogize it with a car dealership. So now we got the parts and we got the repair side. So that's a little bit about where we are.
Yeah. What has been the biggest challenges since you've started?
I would say, well, one of the big challenges was Alex, the owner himself, is to get him to let go, sort of enterprising the business and getting him out of it so that it doesn't have to run with him, that essentially he has no day-to-day responsibility. He doesn't need to do anything. He's just here to be the vision, the big picture stuff. And that's a role that he's really taken to and done really well in, and sort of that letting go. So that was one of the bigger challenges, and getting him to like trust that, other people can go do these things. And because he was wearing all the hats and doing everything, as one does when it's new and it's just you and everything's going, really through him. And so that was one of the bigger ones. And then I would say probably the second biggest one was establishing systems and processes that are repeatable, something that you can scale so that everyone understands this is how we do it. This is the protocol. This is the standard. Everything from what drawings are supposed to look like to what specifications are supposed to look like, how we manage change orders, what our contracts look like, what's in the contract, how we develop it, so that it's, because you've got all these different people doing it and they can't all be different, right? Yeah. They have to be pretty close to the same, even though different people are doing them. So there is obviously some differentiation between what person A and person B do, but they're pretty close so that downstream, anybody later looks at it, that they know what it is that they're looking at and where to find things. So that standardizing of processes and procedures is always a big hurdle.
Yeah.
To get over.
Most definitely. What have you done in terms of standardizing those? Like what technology, what resources have you been leveraging?
Well, one of the big ones is that we use Builder Trend.
Mm-hmm.
So we brought Builder Trend on, and so that helps establish the baseline of where everything goes. Another one was bringing on a really great design manager or design department manager. She does some design and work with clients, but she mostly is managing and setting up drawing standards for what that looks like and what the output is supposed to be. So everybody knows what's supposed to be on the drawings and where the stuff is coming from, and so that they look the same no matter really who did the and the project managers know where to find the information. The subcontractors know where we talk about stuff that's always on this page, that's always on that page, and trying to make them easy and clean. Then the pricing, that was a big one, is we developed a proprietary, nearly a couple thousand line item Excel spreadsheet that's got multiple layers to it and different sheets, and it generates our agreements. And one of the huge ones is that we went through and we have negotiated pricing with almost all of our subcontractors. So we don't have to bug a subcontractor to get a quote for a job. Is that I know what I pay for an outlet or a switch or a can light, or to install this amount of drywall or this many square feet of this kind of floor. And it's all pre-negotiated. So all I have to do is the team just has to go through and do a proper takeoff and put in the quantity, and then the labor is sorted out. So we're really just kind of issuing the work orders. And it was a big learning curve with the subs to understand that this is how this needs to work, and then showing them that it makes their lives a lot easier, that we're not bugging them. They're always going to get paid. They're always going to have work. And, just here's what we're going to do. It's all included, and just show up and do your thing. And then everybody is a lot happier in that regard. So this, again, part of systemizing and processing is the development of the calculator, the cost book. Contracts are the same. It's just making it repeatable so that it can be scaled. And it's not just in somebody's head, or this person does it that way and that person does it this way. And it's pretty same, pretty much the same. Not exactly, but pretty much. Still individuals doing the work, but it's a big check. And one of the things that we standardized our drawings, like I said, so we're using Chief Architect. So everybody's drawing on Chief Architect. We're using Builder Trend. We have our calculator. So it's the kind of the same stuff all the way through.
It makes sense. And if you had to talk to, like, say this a builder that is at $1 million in revenue, or even $500,000 in revenue for the year, and they have big goals of making it to $10 million in revenue, what is the most important thing that you think you guys have done to differentiate yourselves to get to where you're at now?
Well, for me, honestly, it's got to start with, you got to do quality work, and you got to have a good relationship with your clients, which leads to ideally positive reviews. And reviews mean so much these days, and you have to ask for those. You have to solicit the reviews so that other people will go and look and say, oh, they have all these great reviews and so on. And even if you don't get really good reviews, you really want to make sure you don't get bad. And they can't be just to avoid bad reviews. I mean, if you really need to have the client's best interest at heart, that you can't fake that, in my opinion, because you can't keep that up. You can't maintain the facade. And that's really, for me, the thing after all these years, having done the big projects and the small ones and the complicated ones, that the reward, the thing that gets me out of bed, is helping that homeowner. And now that I've gotten so much older and most of the clients are younger than me these days, is helping them achieve something that they would otherwise not have been able to achieve without our help, and keeping them out of the ditch, just that they don't get taken advantage of. They don't lose money, kind of thing, and just looking out for them, because a lot of these clients now are, to the age that I could be their dad at this point. And so you feel bad if they're, like, look, don't do this. This is trouble for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have to have your client's best interest at heart. You have to do good work. And then you have to tell people about your good work, or get your clients to tell you about the good work, or tell other people about your good work through positive reviews. Mm-hmm. Just consistency is super important, and that client communication is really the axiom that you could probably boil it down to. If you really take care of the client, everything else will take care of itself. There'll be plenty of work. You'll make good money. You'll be plenty busy, and that is just the focus on the client and the outcome in terms of what it is that you're providing. Everything else will be fine. You'll be, it'll all be good if you can really do and focus on that. And everything you should do every day is, what am I doing to make the experience better for the client? Why, if I'm doing this and there's no benefit to the client, what's the purpose of this? Why are we spending time on this? How are we going to make, and that can be lower cost, faster, better, clearer communication, better drawings, like, oh, I didn't realize it was like that, like, that's not the response you want from a client after something gets put together and they're like, oh, that's different than I thought it was going to be. Yes. I hate that. You need to be super, super clear about what this is going to look like, and what's not included, right? And this may come up, like, I remember we talked about that this might be an issue. We're here. It's an issue, right? So we have to address this and deal with it. And unfortunately, it's going to be some extra money because we're doing extra work, so just that super clear communication, as few as surprises as possible, is a big one. But that really, to me, that comes back to taking care of the client.
Absolutely. I always say no surprise is the best surprise when it comes to projects, working, things like that. You never want surprises.
I don't think there's any way you can get lucky on a job and there won't be any, but to ensure that there aren't going to be any, I just don't know that that's an attainable goal. But you can forecast them, and if you're paying attention, and then you can talk about where, here are the areas that I am concerned about something popping up, right? And you can handicap it for them, like, we're probably going to see some stuff when we get into the electrical here. This is an older house. It's hard to say where everything's running. So there's a chance we're going to have to relocate and rerun some wiring. So that could be an issue. Plumbing could be an issue. Or we get into this house is 70 years old. There's probably some rotted wood in here that's been covered up at some point where there was a leak for half a decade that nobody dealt with. And then somebody did deal with it and covered it up. They stopped the leak. But we get in there and open it up. There's going to be some rotted stuff that we need to take care of and replace. Clearly, right now, we don't know what that is or to what extent, but there's a chance. So just be prepared for that.
Absolutely. And just making them aware beforehand. Sometimes,
exactly.
We've done plenty of renovation projects and it just seems like taking down a wall, right? It's just a wall. Take it down. But you don't know what's behind that wall. And so making sure that people aren't surprised by that is key so that they're aware of what the whole process is. And it sounds like you guys do a really great job at that.
We sure try. There are those occasions where even we're surprised, like, whoa, what is that doing? That there's just nothing that gave us any indication that would be in that wall. But,
yeah. Well, with renovations in older houses, you never know what's right behind there.
And clearly, the older they are, the more that surprise weirdness coefficient goes up. If the house was built in '92, then that probably not, right? But if it was built in 32 or 22, then okay.
Yeah.
More than likely, who knows what's been done to this place in the last 100 years that we can't see, and
there's some stuff covered up
and move. Yeah, 100%. So you just got to be clear about that. But again, just coming back to taking care of the client, being straight with them about what's what, and then say what you mean and mean what you say. We're going to be here, we're going to get this done, then do that. The false promise thing, horrible. Like, oh, we're going to get this done in 2 weeks, and 2 months later you're still clowning around. Again, that circles back to not taking care of the client.
Yeah.
And for a growing company, overcommitting, always a thing, hungry for the next deal, hungry for the next job, and then just get too much. And I would say, don't try to grow too fast, and definitely don't take on a bigger project than you're ready for. Everybody, when they're new and they're young and they're up and coming, they all want to do the $1 million, $1.5 million job. And they're not all they're cracked up to be. The client expectations are completely different. They almost assuredly have more money than you do. If sideways, they can lawyer you to death. It could cost you everything. So don't overdo that. Do bathrooms, right? Be like, oh, I'm going to go in and tear this house out, and we're going to spend $800,000 and get it. Those are way more complicated than they seem, and they are not the utopia that those that have never done those think they are. You earn that money, right? And something simple, in and out, until you get really good with that. You get your systems down, you get your processes down. And then if it gets a little bit sideways, it's an easier recovery, right? You're not flying at 100,000 feet and then you're crashing down. You're flying at 20,000 feet and you can recover, right? So really, really work out your stuff on the smaller projects before you get into those big, massive ones. Overreaching there, because for new, young companies, young guys up and coming, it can be really, really hard to understand your cost on those jobs until you've done them. So that's one that's often a mistake, is then you realize I'm way underbid on this thing. I just didn't anticipate how long it was going to take and all the stuff that was involved. And so that can be a huge problem for a small, young, up and coming company, is to get into a big job and be horribly short on the cost of it.
Yeah, because you guys have a lot of data, right? I mean, you sell a lot of the parts that you need for homes and things like that. So it's kind of nice because you have not only the experience, but you also have the hard costs of what things are going to be. And so I can see how that could be a huge struggle for someone just starting out. In terms of like Builder Trend, for instance, is that what you use for scheduling, for project planning, for bidding, everything? Is that kind of all in one?
Well, we don't use it for bidding component. Because we've written our own program, have done it so that after we've done it and it's a couple thousand line items long, that it will concatenate itself down into an uploadable estimate into Builder Trend. So we can just inject that into Builder Trend in sort of a done state to establish our budget. So it'll put in, because they match in terms of cost codes and code categories, so framing labor, framing material, framing subcontractor, or whatever, and then it'll total that, and then it'll have one number for each of those, and then input that directly into Builder Trend. So we don't develop the calculator or the cost in Builder Trend. We just inject the finished package into Builder Trend, and then we run it from there in Builder Trend. We manage the cost in there. We invoice all of that thing. We do all of that. We essentially use Builder Trend kind of end to end, except for establishing the budget. We do that outside and then inject it in. We definitely use the scheduling. We use the file, the documents folder. Everything's uploaded there. From a scheduling standpoint, one of the things that we do there is we also schedule our design process, because we are design and build. And so then once a job is a job and we're taking it into design, we will establish an agenda for each design meeting. Each design meeting will be scheduled. Obviously, the clients are aware of that. And so design meeting 1 is on the 14th. And these are the things that we're going to be talking about. And then design meeting 2 is on the 22nd. And this is what's on the agenda for that. And so we will schedule that. And really what this is what we're trying to get to. Here's what I'm trying to get to. Proof of concepting this, that we start your project here. And really what I want to get to is I want to get to where I can guarantee a start date and guarantee a finish date from the very beginning. So I've got to run at least a year of putting them in without the guarantee and seeing how they track from a baseline original schedule to an actual schedule, and how that finished out and what the issues were, and see if we can put that out there. Because two of the biggest questions in my mind that people have that worry about going into a project like this in any order is, how long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost? Right? Is that those are two of the biggest concerns that homeowners have. So how long is this thing going to take? Because they've all heard the nightmare about the kitchen that took 2 years and this, that, and the other thing. So we're really trying to eliminate that, and transparency is like, here's our schedule, here's the plan, but you have stuff you have to do. You have to approve your sinks and faucets and tile, or otherwise the schedule is going to move. The one big one there that we cannot control is the permit. They'll permit, the city will tell us, oh, we expect it to take 6 weeks. So we might plug in 8 weeks for permit processing, and then we kind of build around that. So it's easier to pull it up, harder to push it out.
Yeah.
So really the one piece we can't do. And then everything's approved and managed. All the selections are made there. And then internally, we use it for ordering, issuing our POs and our work orders, and getting the materials ordered and back in. And we track all that also in Builder Trend. Okay. So it's pretty front to back for us, other than that, establishing the initial budget.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And so I think I have, 1 or 2 more questions for you, Charlie. But when you guys, kind of going back in time now again, when you guys were just kind of starting out, still smaller, how did you gain traction in the market? What, besides obviously making your customers happy, client care, how were you gathering reviews, and how did you get your name out there?
Well, Alex was honestly, early days is that he was doing the work too cheaply. He was the lowest price guy, is one of the things that he was doing. Talked about it, and that was kind of a conscious decision, is that he wanted to make market penetration by because he was new and didn't have a track record and didn't have the experience, and that this is all the stuff, is that he quickly built on that and got a few really solid jobs. But he was essentially the deal. That I'm not only am I good, but you really kind of have to take my word for that. But I'm really. And so then that was a big part of how he sort of punched his way into the fight really early on, was being low cost. And now we're not. We're charging fair. We're not a boutique, because we want to do high volume. So we're very competitively priced. I think we're the best value out there in terms of what you get for what you pay, because there are a lot of smaller companies and people that are still sort of a little more old school, charging kind of the same, but they don't provide as near as the level of touch and high service that we do with the client. So I think we're absolutely the best value, but by no means are we the cheapest guy anymore. But I would say that was one of the main ways, is that he punched in, was being low cost in the beginning.
Okay. That makes sense. And so now, are you guys automating customer reviews? How do you continue to gather those?
No, again, that comes down to that personal relationship,
Personal.
so that we're constantly in contact with them. We do incentivize the project managers because they're the ones that are in contact with the client the longest and the last. And even our project consultants, what we refer to as essentially the front end sales team, is that if they generate a review, they get a reward. Depending on the size of the job, up to like $1,500 if it's a big job. If you get a 5-star review, then well, here's a $1,500 bonus or 1,200 or 1,000 or 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. So they're pretty scrappy about going in and getting those reviews after the fact.
Oh, I would say,
And
I mean,
for the team to go get the review.
that's a good little bonus right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, is there any last comments that you have in terms of advice, thoughts, where your head's at?
Yeah. It's just, if we're sort of, talking to really the younger guys, younger companies, ones that are up and coming, it's just, be honest, be transparent, hit your marks in terms of what you say you're going to do. Don't tell them what they want to hear. Tell them the truth, kind of thing. And if it's going to be 3 weeks, tell them it's going to be 3 weeks, even if they really want it done in a week, because it's way better off. And I learned it a long, long time ago, to sort of rip that Band-Aid off now, get them, tell them that bad news now, because the longer you wait, the worse it is, because it's all going to come out in the wash at some point, right? And the longer you put that conversation off, the worse it's going to be. So the sooner you can have it, the better off you're going to be. They'll get over it typically earlier than later, kind of thing. So it's just that, and know your cost, 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 and manage it, work it, and being straight with your client, doing what you say, which a lot of that comes down to scheduling, right? But you got to know your cost. You got to know your cost is a huge, huge aspect and part of ultimately being successful.
Okay. Yeah, I completely agree with that from working in the construction industry with my husband and also from having construction done to my home. You don't want cost surprises. Obviously, they're going to come up from time to time. You don't want to be in a remodel for 2 months when it was said that it was going to be 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Those are the things that will not make your clients happy. So completely agree.
Very much so.
Yep.
And then, aggressively get those good reviews and then go out and market hard.
Yep.
Market hard. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 full-time people in marketing.
Wow, that's amazing. And so they're responsible for all of your advertisements, for all of your social media, things like that.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, it's really, we're trying to shift the mindset here that we are a marketing and sales organization that happens to do.
Okay, so a tech first construction company.
Yep.
You're really focusing on the marketing, the customer experience. And
Yep.
I think if more companies start operating like that, the better people experience will be with the construction market. There's so many people that, I've heard unfortunate stories where, someone even just stopped showing up fully. You never want that to be, happening to someone or to yourself. So, I mean, if anything, I think that you are dead on everything that needs to be done in terms of taking care of your clients, having the technology to back that experience so customers are kept in the loop, and having that really strong communication at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's really kind of it. And if you do that, you're going to be as busy and successful as you want to be. And then you got to decide, how hard you want to lean into that. Do you want to be 20, 30, or 40 or $50 million? Are you happy riding, 6, 7, 8, and that's a good, comfortable size for you to manage, type of thing? Because everybody can't be a $40 million remodeling company.
No,
that's not. So you got to kind of decide what you want to do and where you want to go, and then find a niche and be the best in the niche.
most definitely. Well, Charlie, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And then for those of you listening, if you're ready to stop running your business on chaos, start building systems that scale, take some of Charlie's advice here. Feel free to reach out for more insights. I'd love to be able to help, and I can show you exactly how we can also help contractors. But with that being said, thank you so much for listening. And Charlie, I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.